Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to build an automatic ghast blaster or ghast block breaker in your Bedrock Edition world. So this is a really fun and quite impressive build to have around, and this is ideal for either a crimson or warped fungus tree farm, a normal tree farm, or a concrete converter. This design uses anywhere from 1 to 9 different ghasts to break blocks automatically for you. These guys will break 100% of the blocks in your blasting area and drop every single one of those blocks as items into your collection system. This thing does take a lot of time, energy, and dedication to get working properly, and it can be a little bit inconsistent at times, so don't start building this unless you are really sure that you will see it through to completion. So what exactly are you looking at here? What is this complicated mess of redstone and gas fireballs in front of you here? Well, let's break it down into parts. So each part of this build is only 3 ghasts. As you can see, this is all the redstone and everything contained within this little border from the structure block. As you can see, a single 3 ghast blaster isn't really that big, and it's not actually that complicated either. There's barely any redstone at all, simply 3 redstone lines and some tripwires. So for the 9 ghast blaster, with 9 ghasts in total, we simply have this little section 3 times over, and that's really all there is to it. It gets really big and really bulky, but it's not actually that complicated once you break it down into its specific parts and understand all the mechanics behind how it functions. So as you can see, all the ghasts are firing, their fireballs are getting redirected by the slime, and that goes into the blasting zone, and as you can see, all the blocks just get obliterated and then go into your item collection. So what exactly is the point of building a ghast blaster, and what exactly can you use it for? Well, there are 4 main farms that this is really ideal for. First of all, a warped or crimson fungus tree farm, like the one I just recently did a tutorial on. This will work really well for that, as these blocks have a pretty low blast resistance, so they'll just get blown up all the time, and it works really well for that. This does also work for a tree farm as well, but as you can see, sometimes the fireballs are a little bit inconsistent, and you will not have the wood get blown up. Like, as you can see, this line of blocks and this line of blocks, they're just not going to get blown up because they have a higher blast resistance. And the same thing goes for concrete as well. Concrete will get blown up and it will, drop, but not in this line or the bottom line. It's really quite strange. Fireballs are a bit strange. There's a couple of pros and cons to using a ghast blaster for breaking blocks. First of all, ghasts have a 100% drop rate, so every single block that they blow up will get dropped as an item. As you can see, we got 4 logs, and they blew up 4 logs. Really, it's quite nice and quite straightforward. This is something that I did not know about ghasts until I started building one of these. Now, the cons is, of course, that they generate fire with their fireballs, as they should. It's called a fireball for a reason, and sometimes your items will land in that fire. So technically, you should have a 100% drop rate, but sometimes the items will land in that fire, and sometimes you'll lose a couple items from that. So there's something to keep in mind there. Now, there's also the inconsistency of ghasts as well. These guys sometimes just won't break the blocks, and there's reasons. Like, you can see all that middle area and that left area didn't get destroyed. No reason why it shouldn't have, but it didn't. Massive thank you to ZloyXP for getting this project off the ground. He wanted to do this on a truly Bedrock, and the mad lad did it. He went off on his lonesome and designed a good old ghast blaster, and that got me into wanting to design some as well. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, but never had like an actual excuse to do it, so I never did it, and now we've done it. So thank you, Zloy. You can check out his videos for more information on ghast blasters and his own design that is arguably a bit simpler. So, link to his channel, make sure to subscribe, and do all the lovely YouTube things. Thanks again, Zloy. I love you. And let's check out how this ghast blaster works in detail, shall we? It's actually a relatively simple build once you understand the base mechanics that we're using to make this system work. So there's a couple main parts. First of all, we have the ghast. These guys are just sitting over here in minecarts. They're never going to move. They legitimately just sit there forever. They're going to be trying to shoot at the snow golem, which is behind that honey block, and and they are going to be having their fireballs get detected by this tripwire, which will activate that slime block and redirect the fireball into the blasting zone. Now, the snow golems don't naturally attack the ghasts, and therefore the ghasts are going to try to naturally attack the snow golems. So what we have to do is we have to trick the snow golem into attacking the ghast, that way the ghast will attack the snow golem. It's a little bit complicated, but not really. So we need a mob that the snow golem will attack, like a zombie pigman or a zombie or something like that, and we just cart that mob around in a minecart, and then that makes the snow golems accidentally attack all of the ghasts. As you can see, each and every single one of the ghasts is getting hit. Now, there is a little bit of a bug in the game where these guys might not fire every single time. As you can see, they're attacked. They're actually aggroed on the snow golems, but they are not attacking. So all you gotta do to fix that is actually log out of the game and then log back in, and then they'll all fire in sync, which is actually a really, really cool thing. And as you can see, all the ghasts have now started firing, and they're all going to fire in sync, which is probably the coolest part of this build, getting 9 ghasts to fire in sync. And as you can see, that's really all there is to it. The redstone is dead simple, there's really not much to it, but the ghasts themselves is going to be the most complicated, hardest, most difficult, and time-consuming part of this entire build. Simply getting them from the nether and getting them into place for your blaster is going to take a while. Finally, we have the blasting board or blasting zone over here. This is where all of the blocks actually get destroyed by the ghasts and then fall down into your item collection and go into your storage system. This is basically where all the magic happens and where all the fun bits happen. Now, the red terracotta over here is basically a placeholder block. This is where you would have pistons to push in your trees or your fungus trees or your concrete into the blasting zone. That's just kind of a placeholder to tell you where to put your redstone. How your redstone for your tree farm or your fungus farm or your concrete converter is built is entirely dependent on what design you use. Typically, your tree farm or whatever would either go to these sides over here or back behind the board or on this side. Really, that part is up to you. I'm just showing you how to build the ghast blaster. And let's hop into the tutorial, shall we? The first part of the tutorial is going to be on building the actual structure of the farm itself, and then the second part of the tutorial will be based on getting the ghasts into the farm, because yes, that requires its own section of the video. So the area that you'll need to build the actual structure of the farm for a 3 ghast blasting section is 15 blocks deep by 20 blocks wide. This is also going to be a 7 block tall structure as well. Keep in mind, you'll need a lot of room around this build just to maneuver ghasts. You'll also need extra room on the front of the build, and you'll need a lot of room to the backs and sides of the build for the actual fungus, tree, or concrete converters, for your blasting zone, for your item collection. Basically, don't build this near anything else, because you're going to need a lot of room. Also, make sure you do not build this in a hot biome, like a desert or a mesa, because the snow golems will instantly die. And yes, that means you also cannot build this in the nether. So, spawn a snow golem where you want to build this first, make sure it lives, and then we can carry on building. Also, keep in mind you'll want to build a massive box or structure or building around your ghast blaster. That way they don't see any players when they shouldn't. If you just leave it open, like, you know, that design over there, they're gonna shoot every single player in like a 30 block radius. So yeah, make sure you build a giant building around this. That way you never have any issues with your ghasts shooting you when they shouldn't. To start construction of the build, we want to go to the front left corner and go in by a block or two. This, and then count to the left by 6 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and place down 2 blocks right here, a block up, and then another block up, and 2 more blocks like so, and then finally just 1 more block going forward right there. This block right here is going to be piggo position. This is where your zombie or your zombie pigman will be sitting in storage, that way the snow golems don't sit at it. And now we're quickly going to install our blasting board, which is going to be off in this area of the build. You'll need an additional 6 blocks off of the end of the build for all of that. This block right here is permanent, but we need another 6 blocks of temporary blocks right here going out for 7 in total. Go up into the diagonal by 1, and this is going to be the corner of our blasting board. Your blasting board is going to be an 8 by 8 square basically, and that's really all there is to it. So make this 8 blocks tall and 8 blocks wide, and then it just fill in the center. You don't need to make this out of obsidian, of course. You can just make it out of cobblestone or stone or pretty much anything that you like that the ghast cannot destroy. And there we go, I filled in the blasting board, so each one of these 2x2s basically represents where a ghast fireball is going to be hitting, and the radius of blocks that the ghast fireball can destroy. So as you can see, our 3 lower fireballs will be going right here, here, and here. The 3 upper ones will be going there, there, and there. And the 3 top ones will be destroying blocks in this area, and this area, and this area as well. Okay, let's go ahead and expand this rail line towards the back of the farm. We need this to go 6 blocks forward, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then towards the right side of the build by 3, like so, and then forwards by 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the side again, and then forward by another 5, so 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that is kind of the zigzag of the rail line that we need. Most of this is going to be normal rails, but in the middle is going to be a powered rail, just to make sure that Piggo keeps on going really, really speedy, all the way across the design. So get in your powered rails, and then your normal rails right there too. And now we're going to lay out the positions where all of your ghast are going. The ghast will be installed at the end of the build, but we need to mark out where they're sitting. So by each of your middle powered rails, go over by 4 blocks like so, and then go a block down and place in yourself a normal rail. This is where your ghast is going to be sitting. Make sure your rail is facing that direction and not like that direction. And then we're going to go ahead and put some more glass blocks up into the sides like so. I'm using glass, that way guaranteed the ghast will never suffocate and the blocks. Trust me, you do not want these guys dying accidentally. So do that for each one of these guys, and of course just go ahead and install each one of your 3 different ghast holding cells lined up with each one of your powered rails. That's why lining up your powered rails is pretty important. And now it's time to install our tripwire hooks. So above your central powered rail, go up with 3 temporary blocks, and then make a 3 block bar to the side of that, and then on the ends of this place in your solid blocks, remove your temporary blocks, and place in your tripwire hooks and your actual string in between them. And then you want to do that for each one of your powered rails. It's the exact same process, up by 3 temporaries, solid blocks on the ends, remove your temporaries, and then put in your tripwires and your wire. And now we're going to install the redstone line for all of your tripwires. So beneath your tripwires, you want 2 pieces of glass in this location. It does need to be glass because your zombie or your Piggo is going to be going through that. You don't want them to suffocate. Then go down and go 4 blocks over, and then back up and 2 blocks over. Redstone dust on top of all of this stuff, and then a repeater on 2 ticks right there, going into a solid block, sticky piston above that, and a slime block right there. You should notice that the slime block is at the same height as your tripwires. You need to do this for the middle one as well. And as you can see, there is a 1 block gap between that piston and where that piston is. And then the back one is going to be a little bit different just because it can. So you're going to have a block of glass right there, and then 5 blocks over. And then all of that is going to be covered up with redstone dust. Finally, get yourself a repeater right here on 2 ticks, going into a block, sticky piston facing forward, and a slime block like so. And as you can see, that is all of our redstone lines and launchers in place. Now we're going to install the snow golem chamber. So what you need to do is go ahead and put yourself a sticky piston facing forward right there, a honey block on the front of that way these 2 guys don't stick to each other, a temporary block right here, glazed terracotta there and there. You can also use obsidian if you want, but it doesn't really matter. Go ahead and place in yourself a solid block there, some temporary blocks in the middle, and then just surround this in solid blocks on all sides, and another glazed terracotta or obsidian right there, and go ahead and remove your 3 temporary blocks. That is going to be your snow golem holding cell completely done. Go ahead and do that 3 times for each one of your slime launchers. And now to install the on and off switch, we're going to go to the left side of the farm, place in ourselves a solid block right here next to this piston, a lever right there, and then just go ahead and bring upper slabs all the way across to this piston right here, continue those along to the back side of the build, turn the corner and go into a solid block, and then you just need redstone dust above each and every single one of those like so. Go ahead and flick that lever and that should extend all of your honey pistons. You only want it to extend these ones. These slime pistons are completely independent from the on switch as those are powered by your tripwire hooks. Now we're going to install the redstone line to power your piggo position rail. So go beneath your on switch right here and place in a solid block right there, redstone dust, a redstone torch right there, and then get yourself an upper slab in this location, and then another 3 upper slabs going across like so, a solid block right there, and then another upper slab right there, and finally one more solid block. Cover all of that in redstone dust like so, except that block there. Place in yourself a sticky piston, observer facing that piston, a temporary block, and then a solid block, so remove that guy. And now you need an upper slab right there as well. Place in yourself a repeater on 4 ticks, and that is going to power the powered rail of where your piggo or zombie sits. The majority of the build is now done, but we need to install some additional blocks to prevent these snow golems from shooting when they shouldn't. You don't want them to hit the wrong ghast because that could cause a lot of issues and many explosions. So we're going to install some blocker blocks in these locations right here. So basically a 3x3 wall to hide the piggo from all these snow golems. That way they can never shoot at it as it's in its resting position. We now need to place in a little kind of donut of blocks in this area right here as well to block this snow golem from shooting across. And then we need another block right there too. We're now going to install a pretty similar thing on this side. So get in your donut of blocks right here, like so, and then go over by 2 blocks and then up by a block as well. And that will help prevent this guy from shooting across and hitting that ghast. But that's not all. For the middle section, we need an additional 2 blocks right here and then 3 blocks in those locations. And for the final row, we need 4 blocks here and then another row on top of that as well. And now we're going to finish up the rail line for your piggo. So remove this block for a second and place another rail right there, and then a rail there, and a couple of powered rail right there as well. Power those with a lever, and then you just want some normal rail going down in that location. That should be lined up with this bit of rail right here. Go ahead and remove that piece of rail and put that block back. And now we're just going to continue on this rail line down to the end. Install as many powered rail in this as you feel is necessary. You don't really need that much though. Anyway, we're going to continue it on to this end right here until it meets up with this little section, and then go out by a couple more blocks. I'm out of the build area. I know, shut up. Anyway, so we need a block up right there, piece of rail to make this an angled rail, and then simply put in a line of blocks right there. So whenever the piggo's on its minecart ride, it's going to go ahead, run into that wall, fall down, and then go ahead and go on its merry way back to its starting position. I would recommend testing out this system yourself, so maybe go ahead and sit in a minecart, press a button, and then see what happens. You should go all the way along to the end, fall down, and then go back around to the starting position, as you can see there. Nice little loop-de-loop. Now, I did notice that this part right here is a little bit slow, so I'll add another rail. The final step is priming the system. So what you need to do is get your snow golems. Simply place in 2 snow blocks and a pumpkin. Bam, your snow golem is installed. You don't need to name tag these guys. They don't despawn. And just go ahead and put a slab above their head. Of course, go ahead and do that for all 3 of your sections, and you'll be good to go for your snow golems. And now we need to install our zombie pigman or our zombie. A zombie's probably a much easier thing to get unless you got like a nether portal around or something, but you'll also need to make sure that the zombie doesn't die from daylight. Anyway, place down yourself a minecart, get yourself a zombie pigman into that minecart, and of course make sure to name tag them, that way you never have any issues. Now we can do our first tester of the system, so go ahead and unflick that lever, that should activate that, and bam, we got 3 snowballs exactly from each one of your snow golems. That is perfect, that's exactly what you want to see. If you didn't have that happen, double check your build and make sure there's no blocks like blocking the line of sight to your zombie pigman or whatever, and you should be good to go. Now what you need to do is spawn proof this area, light up this build with torches, sea lanterns, whatever you want to do, and make sure that nothing spawns on your build. For example, if you have a creeper spawn right here and it falls down to this location, it could get shot by your snow golem, explode, kill a couple ghasts. That would be a very, very bad day. So make sure this build is completely spawn-proofed, and spawn-proofing has a dual purpose as well. If you have more zombies or drowns spawn in this area, that could distract your snow golems from attacking your main piggo, and then they won't hit your ghast and you won't have your ghast firing and breaking blocks. So make sure there's no other zombies or zombie pigmen or anything like that in the area that might possibly distract your snow golems. The final thing you need to do before trying to get ghast into this build is build a giant box or building around this entire containment area. That way, if someone comes and walks around all willy-nilly to visit your build, the ghast don't fire at them and destroy your entire farm. If you don't build a box around this, your farm's not going to last that long, so make sure you got a box or some sort of building around this contraption. And what if you want to build more than a Ghast Blaster 3000 with 3 ghasts? Well, you're going to need to build multiple sections of what I just showed you how to build. So this is the first section. You can then make another one of those a couple blocks up into the back for your second section, or even a third one of these if you felt like it. Tiling them together is really straightforward. So as you can see, this is the second section right here. The tripwire for the first ghast is, 1 block to the side of where the third ghast of the first section is. The rail line, it just goes around the corner and up, and basically it's the exact same build process. Of course, this section needs to be a couple blocks higher, that way your ghast fireballs get shot to the correct position. And of course, the section back again is another 2 blocks higher, that way the fireball goes to the next block up on your blasting board. So if you want to know more about how to tile these things together, there's a world download down in the description of the video. If you want to install some quick and easy item collection for your Ghast Blaster, we're going to go back and behind your blasting board, buy a block, and place in a wall of glass right here. This is going to extend 2 blocks to either side of your blasting board, so basically it's going to be 10 blocks long, like so. We're now going to extend this forward and make the wall also go underneath this line of redstone dust right here, and then it's going to go forward from that lever. And now we're going to go ahead and place some water in the back side of this to flush all the items towards the front. Place some buttons right there so the water doesn't flow too far. Remove this line of blocks and then place in some more water. 1 water source right there, 1 water source right there, and then break out a block somewhere about in the middle, and that is going to be the output for all of your items. So if we drop ourselves an item right here, of course that's going to end up in the output of the system. Of course you can switch out the floor and here and down below for packed or blue ice or whatever you want to do, or you can put a giant hopper grid, which I would not recommend. But yeah, that's just some quick and easy item collection from your system. You might need to consider adding walls that are 2 blocks tall, or possibly adding a little bit of a wall right here so that items don't fly out. Depending on your exact setup, you might not be able to do that with your redstone from your tree farm or whatever, but that's about what you need to do. And now it is time for the second part of today's video, how to get some gas by wrangling some gas. So the first thing that you'll need to do is find yourself a nice soul sand valley really close to the nether portal that goes to your Ghast Blaster. You don't really want to have to transport gas that far. What you'll need to do is clear out a nice little area, I'd say about 20 by 20 or 30 by 30, and make sure that this is at least 4 blocks tall. Ghast require a 4 block tall area to spawn, and if you're trying to move them somewhere, make sure all of your tunnels are 4 blocks tall as well. That way they don't suffocate in the ceiling. So basically, all you really need to do is walk back and forth until you eventually get a spawn in your ghast spawning area. If you see any other ghasts in the area, or really any other mobs, kill them with your bow, and keep on doing this process and walking back and forth until you eventually get a ghast to spawn in there. We walk back and forth, so that way all additional mobs in the area can despawn, and that gives us a higher chance of eventually getting a ghast to spawn in that area. Hey, there we go, we actually got one. So once you see one, you want to build up some walls around him and basically just go as fast as possible. He is going to shoot at you, things are going to catch on fire, and it's going to be hectic, but that is fine. Go ahead and place down some rails, name tag the guy, and connect up these rails to your nether portal. Your nether portal also needs to be 4 blocks tall, and it needs to have an activator rail in front of it to kick the ghast out of the minecart. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and place down a minecart, get that guy into the minecart, and then just walk inside the ghast and basically push him onto the rails. He should be off on his way, activate the activator rail, and bam, it is now in the overworld. This will take you a little while to practice. Don't be hard on yourself, you are going to lose a few ghasts. Some of them will die, some of them will kill themselves. Some of them might even kill each other, and skeletons might kill a few as well. So there's going to be casualties. Some of those casualties might actually be you as well. And this is what your nether portal in the overworld should look like. It's going to be 4 blocks tall, and it's going to be rather wide as well. You'll need a housing around that made out of slabs, a roof, and a wall, of course. That way, if the ghast does end up on the roof or the walls, it's not going to suffocate and take any damage. You will want rail lines to either side of the nether portal, and I would suggest just leaving an empty minecart on these rail lines at all times. That way, whenever a ghast does come through the portal, it'll pretty much automatically hop directly into a minecart. They're really easy to get into minecarts because they have such a big collision box, and then once they're in a minecart, you can do whatever you want with them. We now need to make an addition to our ghast blaster. This is kind of a temporary / permanent rail system. As you can see, this just goes from wherever your nether portal is up a few blocks above where each of your ghast holding cells are. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks above each one of the rails. That way, when your ghasts are falling down, they're not going to suffocate on any of these blocks, and then you can actually remove or change these blocks without hitting the ghasts. As you can see, it's a really basic rail line. The first rail just goes directly into the first cell. The minecarts will go along this rail line, turn the corner, hit that block, and fall directly downwards. Once you have that ghast in place, you unflick the lever, and then the next minecart goes into the next section. As you can see there, you repeat that process until all of your ghasts are in place, and that's just about it. You will, of course, need to make sure there is enough powered rail. That way, the minecarts don't get stuck on the edge like this. So if you don't have enough powered rail, that's going to happen. But if you have plenty of powered rail, they'll go right off the edge. Getting your first ghast into the system should be rather straightforward. All you really need to do is get it in the minecart and then push it along, and it should do the rest on its own. As you can see, it's now gone into the first cell of your ghast blaster. You can now go ahead and flick that lever and redirect the rail. That way the next minecart and next ghast goes into the next section, but it's not quite that straightforward. I would recommend drinking lots and lots of invisibility when you are around these ghasts, especially once you have your first ghast in the system. You do not want these guys firing at you or firing at each other, so playing around with invisibility is going to be a great way and a great time saver. That way you don't accidentally destroy your entire system. As you can see, our second ghast is now in there. We unflick that lever, and then we can go ahead and get our third ghast in here as well from the nether. And that's really all there is to it. Again, it's not going to be quite this simple in survival. I've done this many times on Truly Bedrock. If you want to see some of the adventures of ghast wrangling, I will link to some of the live streams that we've done on Truly Bedrock, getting these guys in survival mode, and you'll see a little bit more of the process and the ins and outs of exactly how this happens, and how it can go so wrong. By the way, if your ghasts do take any damage, splash potions of health 2 will be your friend. These are living mobs, so if you throw a harming potion at them, they're gonna die. So throw health potions at them to restore all their health. Now that we have our ghasts in place, we can officially do the first run of the system, the most exciting and terrifying part of this entire build, because it might just completely explode, you never know. Anyway, we're going to unflick the lever that will send by the Pigo. The ghasts are getting shot, and as you can see, bam, they are all shooting at the snow golems, and all the fireballs are being redirected as they should into our blasting board. As you can see, they're actually destroying more blocks than anticipated. Typically, they only do the 2x2, but they're actually doing a couple blocks above that as well, which is nice to see. We can regenerate that entire board, and as you can see, the fireballs are now destroying all of the blocks. So now you can hook up your concrete converter, your tree farm, your fungi farm, whatever you want to do to this area, and test it out however you like. There's a lot of different customization that you can do from here on out, so play around a little bit. Be very careful with these ghasts as you don't want to aggravate them, and have fun with it. Seriously, this is a pretty fun project. You can flex on your friends with this, and you earned a well-deserved cup of hot chocolate, so go enjoy something fun. This was a lot of work, wasn't it? The fireballs are a little bit weird and randomized, so you will need to test your specific blasting board to see what blocks can get broken where. As you can see, only these 5 blocks going across are being broken, so it kind of appears like these 2 blocks from this 2x2 will never be broken, and that's correct because the fireballs are actually off-center a little bit, so in reality, the 2x2s are positioned like this going across, and if we have some logs right here, these can actually be broken by your ghast. As you can see, that's just how our ghast blaster right here is built. So you'll need to test out your specific blasting board to see what blocks where can be broken by your ghasts, and then design your tree farms and your fungus farms around that specific setup. But that's why it's important to build your ghast blaster first, and then your tree farm and your fungi farm. Also play around with the different blocks as well, because keep in mind the concrete and logs have a higher blast resistance than the stems. So stems right here can be broken, whereas logs in these locations cannot be broken. So play around with the different materials depending on what exactly you are going to be farming, and see what works. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about today's Bedrock Edition tutorial, of course, let me know with a comment down below. I'm always trying to help you guys out as best as you possibly can, and also make sure to check out the world download for this farm as well, because that'll likely give you some insights on how to build your design in your worlds and get it working. But if you enjoyed today's Bedrock Edition tutorial, then of course make sure to leave a like on the video, as it really does help out the video and the channel a lot. If you're new here, then consider subscribing so you don't miss future tutorials on the channel, like a ghast farm and other fun things. Otherwise, I'll see you guys down in the comment section and in the next one. Thank you so very much for watching, I really appreciate it. And then there was silence.